This is every detail, every Easter egg, every cameo, every wonderful aspect of Jonathan Larson's life recreated in the film Tick, Tick, Boom. The film begins with Jonathan Larson, played by Andrew Garfield, coming out on stage and performing in Tick, Tick, Boom, which he did at the New York Theater Workshop. And indeed, this is filmed on location at the New York Theater Workshop. Originally, it was going to be shot on a set, but when the pandemic happened, they decided to shoot it at the actual New York Theater Workshop to support it. We see this footage from the opening night of Rent, where Anthony Rapp dedicates that performance and all future performances of Rent to Jonathan Larson. And you can see Jonathan Larson's real-life father and sister in the audience clapping. Jonathan Larson's sister, Julie, also has a cameo in the finale of the film.
The date is January 26th, 1990.
January 26, 1990 is a very important date. For starters, it's 6 years exactly before the first preview performance of Rent. The first performance of Rent was supposed to have been January 25th, 1996, but tragically, that was the same day Jonathan Larson died of an aortic aneurysm at just the age of 35. So instead, that first preview performance became a memorial concert, and then the following day, January 26th, was the first preview performance. Also, beginning the show with a date is a reference to Rent, which also begins with a date.
December 24th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
The idea of centering a musical around a birthday,
Happy birthday, Robert,
is itself a musical theater reference to Stephen Sondheim, whose company centers on a group of friends celebrating Bobby's 35th birthday. Throughout the film, we see Jonathan Larson's apartment, which was lovingly recreated down to every last detail. They were able to do this because Jonathan apparently filmed his entire apartment for insurance purposes. So all these books and all these cassettes were actual things that he owned. Now, every actor in this film seemingly has some connection to musical theater, Stephen Sondheim, Broadway, Jonathan Larson, or Lin-Manuel Miranda. If I tried to list everyone's credits, this video would get very long, so I'll try to just note the big ones. For example, Robin DeJesus was the original Sonny in the Heights, but did you know he actually made his Broadway debut in Rent? We see two diner customers in the background here. They are James Nicola and Roger Bart. James Nicola is the artistic director of the New York Theater Workshop who gave Larson his big break when he decided to produce Rent. Roger Bart was a close friend of Jonathan Larson and was a backup vocalist in the original Tick, Tick, Boom performance.
And to Jonathan Larson, whom I often dreamed of moments like this with him.
Also, the character of Roger in Tick, Tick, Boom is loosely based on Roger Bart. Ben Levi Ross was on Broadway in Dear Evan Hansen, which was directed by Michael Greif, who directed the original Rent. MJ Rodriguez played Angel in the off-Broadway revival of Rent, and Joshua Henry is a Broadway star currently on Broadway as Dr. Pomander in Waitress. But fun fact, he was the original King George III, Hercules Mulligan, and Madison in the Vassar Workshop of Hamilton in 2013. He later went on to play Aaron Burr in Chicago and on tour.
Boo Boo, you need to ask yourself in this moment, are you letting yourself be led by fear or by love?
Michael's question becomes a lyric in the finale, but more than that, even though this question goes unanswered in this scene, in the trailer, Jonathan Larson does answer the question.
Fear! 100% fear!
Which is probably a reference to this line in Rent.
Why choose fear? I'm a New Yorker. Fear's my life.
More on Larson's apartment. There's an old yellow street sign that says Greenwich Street. Apparently, Larson and some friends actually stole that sign. This scene is shot in the real Strand bookstore in the East Village, one of the most prominent independent bookstores in the country.
You know, Rose has got another client, Craig Carnelia.
Larson mentions Craig Carnelia, who was Tony nominated for the music and lyrics of Working and the lyrics of Sweet Smell of Success. You can see the numbers 525600 on the wall outside Jonathan Larson's apartment, and of course, 525,600 minutes is the famous opening lyric of Seasons of Love.
Hi, Jonathan. It's Deborah. Susan just dropped off your music for tonight's dance piece.
This answering machine message from Deborah is actually voiced by Lin-Manuel's wife, Vanessa Nadal.
Can't get the speakers to work.
Deborah can't get the speakers to work, similarly to how Joanne couldn't get the microphones to work in Rent.
so mad that I don't know what to do. Fighting with microphones.
Hey, Pookie.
Larson calls Michael Pookie, which is what Maureen in Rent calls her lovers.
Pookie.
Kiss Pookie.
The music used in this dance piece is actually Rhapsody by Jonathan Larson, minus the singing. Larson mentions a bunch of choreographers, one of whom is named Merce.
She's already danced with every major choreographer in the city. Paul, Trisha, Merce.
This is a reference to Merce Cunningham, who many may recognize from the lyrics of La Vie Boheme.
Ginsberg, Dylan, Cunningham, and Kate.
Don't forget the neighbors, Michelle and Kate.
The two people that Larson points out as being neighbors are actually connected to Tick, Tick, Boom.
Ana Luizos and her wife, Robin Goodman.
Ana Luizos not only designed the set for In the Heights, but also the 2001 off-Broadway production of Tick, Tick, Boom. Robin Goodman was the co-producer of that production and also was working at Second Stage Theater when Larson staged his original Boho Days, the show that became Tick, Tick, Boom. The finance bro here is played by Ryan Vasquez,
That guy's hilarious.
who has been on Broadway as Hamilton. Throughout the film, we see quite a few number of cameos from Freestyle Love Supreme, Lin-Manuel Miranda's rapping improv troupe, which is currently on Broadway. Anissa Folds plays a member of the Superbia Workshop. Andrew Jelly Donut Bancroft plays the parking attendant. Chris Sullivan, aka Shockwave, is the beatboxer of Freestyle Love Supreme, and he plays the doorman. Utkarsh Ambudkar, aka UTK the INC, is also another member of Freestyle Love Supreme, but also, fun fact, he played Aaron Burr in the 2013 Vassar Workshop of Hamilton.
Sunrise.
Utkarsh says Sunrise, which was actually a suggestion he rapped about in a Freestyle Love Supreme episode.
Say your name even louder, sunrise.
Chris Jackson is also seen here in the audience, fulfilling Lynn's promise to Jackson that as long as I have a job, you have a job. We get a nice close-up of the couch, which indeed is a recreation of Jonathan Larson's real-life couch.
This is the life of Bo, 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 Bo.
The song he sings is called Boho Days, which was originally the opening number of Tick, Tick, Boom back when it was called Boho Days.
Showers in the kitchen, there might be some soap.
One of the lyrics in Boho Days is showers in the kitchen, which was a real thing in Jonathan Larson's real-life apartment. Vanessa Hudgens plays Carissa in the film. In the stage version, Jonathan Larson has a crush on Carissa, and they even bond over Twinkies singing a song called Sugar. Now, the song Sugar was cut from Tick, Tick, Boom, except for this reference to it in the diner.
Song about sugar took me 3 hours.
Song about sugar.
Sugar, she's refined. For a small price, she blows my mind.
Vanessa Hudgens came to prominence with High School Musical, but notably, she's been in multiple productions of Rent. In the 2019 Rent Live on TV and at the Hollywood Bowl. When Susan takes off her coat and we see the green dress, the score plays the riff from Come to Your Senses. Now, there was a song that would have played in this moment called Green Green Dress, and the song was even choreographed and recorded, but ultimately was cut. Instead, we hear Joshua Henry doing a slow jam version of it on the radio as Jonathan and Susan are in the throes of lovemaking. The recording of Green Green Dress, however, is not lost and appears in the closing credits of the film.
I don't want you to have a job in advertising. I want you to have a job in jingle writing.
When Michael's talking about jingle writing, it's referencing the fact that Jonathan actually did write jingles for TV, notably Sesame Street and the kids show Away We Go.
Hey, it's time to get moving, time to slide, time to get grooving, rattle and roll. It's time to get ready to go.
Listen, you come up with jingles all the time for fun, John. You come up with songs about the cereal we're eating.
The line about writing songs about cereal is a reference to the fact that he wrote a demo for Kellogg's Corn Flakes. He also wrote a demo for CNN, which we hear on the radio during this exact scene. These shots of Jonathan Larson's apartment were actually shot on location at 508 Greenwich Street, where the composer lived.
No more walking up 6 flights of stairs or throwing down the key because there is no buzzer.
The line about throwing down the key because there is no buzzer is a reference to the fact that people had to call from the payphone across the street from Jonathan's apartment.
You had to call him from the phone booth across the street, and he threw the keys down.
Just as Susan does in this scene, in order for him to drop down the key so they could come inside. Fans of Rent will recognize that the same thing happens at the opening of Rent, where Tom Collins is calling from a payphone so that a key can be dropped down to him.
Throw down the key.
A wild night is now preordained.
Lin-Manuel Miranda's father, Louise, plays the concierge of Michael's apartment. Not only is Ira Weitzman a real-life producer, but he's played by a real-life playwright and book writer, Jonathan Mark Sherman.
Liquid crystal digital reader.
readout.
The song Jonathan is playing here is called LCD Readout from Superbia, and he's performing this at the ASCAP workshop, which he joined in the fall of 1985. The ASCAP workshop typically involves playing through a bunch of songs from your score and getting critique from a panel of musical theater experts. Stephen Sondheim was on Jonathan Larson's real-life panel. The attendees of this writing workshop were hilariously called aspiring composers and lyricists in the end credits. But if you look at who they are, these are some of the biggest names in musical theater. And bonus points for the inclusion of Chad Bagulin, Matthew Sklar, Shayna Taub, Amanda Green, Dave Malloy, and Joe Iconis. They are all former recipients of the Jonathan Larson Grant for Aspiring Composers, some of whom have gone on themselves to create Broadway shows. More evidence of the lasting influence Jonathan Larson has had in the musical theater community.
Hi there, this is a message for Joe Papp.
Jonathan Larson mentions Joe Papp. Joe Papp was the founder of the Public Theater, where Superbia would later have a staged reading, and where notable musicals such as Hair, A Chorus Line, and Hamilton were produced. The Public Theater is also notable because it runs Shakespeare in the Park at the Delacorte Theater in Central Park, which is the location that Jonathan Larson runs off to play piano and sing the song Why.
Order!
Here we see Sunday in the Park with George on PBS, giving us a glimpse of Bernadette Peters, who would later appear at the Moondance Diner for her cameo in Sunday. Yes, I know, we will get to Sunday, but all in due time. Here, Jonathan Larson sees the poster Silence Equals Death, which was the iconic poster of AIDS activism at that time. And who were the activists protesting? Well, the film shows us with a clip of Jesse Helms, a U.S. senator from North Carolina, known for his homophobic stances and policies. Later on, Michael even brings up Jesse Helms by name.
What's stopping me? How about Jesse Helms and the moral majority?
This is probably in reference to the fact that Jonathan Larson himself names Jesse Helms in the satirical song White Male World.
Let's all vote for Jesse Helms.
Though the Moondance Diner looks here as if it had never left New York City, in fact it was painstakingly recreated on a set, because the real-life Moondance Diner is no longer in New York. It was actually purchased and moved to La Barge, Wyoming. Lin-Manuel Miranda has a cameo here as the cook. However, it was not his original intention to have this cameo. Instead, he had wanted Joanna Gleason and Chip Zine from Into the Woods to be staffed in the kitchen, which was somewhat appropriate because in Into the Woods, they played the baker and the baker's wife. However, these cameos didn't happen because of COVID. But a whole lot of other cameos happened. Buckle up, here we go. Sunday is a parody of the Act 1 closer of Sondheim's musical Sunday in the Park with George.
Balance.
Howard McGillin is known as being the longest-running Phantom in Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. McGillin also made his Broadway debut in the original Sunday in the Park with George. Chuck Cooper won a Tony Award for the musical The Life. Joel Grey was the original MC in Cabaret, as well as the original Wizard in Wicked. Speaking of wizards, Andre DeShields played The Wiz in The Wiz, and more recently won a Tony for Hadestown. Brian Stokes Mitchell won a Tony for Kiss Me Kate, and is also known for Ragtime. Philippa Sue and Renee Elise Goldsberry are famously the Schuyler sisters in Hamilton. Their headbands are reminiscent of the color that they're associated with in the show. They hold hands and lift up their arms as in the Hamilton poster. Also, before she was in Hamilton, Renee was part of the closing cast of Rent on Broadway. Felicia Rashad won a Tony for her performance in the revival of A Raisin in the Sun. Beth Malone originated the role of the adult Alison Bechdel in Fun Home. She's even wearing her Fun Home costume. Bebe Neuwirth has won Tonys for her performances in the revivals of Sweet Charity in Chicago. Chita Rivera originated the roles of Anita in West Side Story and Velma in Chicago. Lynn said his inspiration for the Sunday sequence was due in part to the impact Chita Rivera had when she made a cameo in the film Chicago.
Chita Rivera showed up in the prison scene in Chicago.
That was a moment, yo.
That was a moment. So when we were storyboarding this, I was like, 20 Chita Riveras in Chicago.
Bernadette Peters originated the roles of Dot in Sunday in the Park with George and the Witch in Into the Woods. In fact, she was so integral to this scene that she was the first person Lynn asked to be a part of it.
I burned up my Rolodex, beginning with the great Bernadette Peters.
Jesse McAnally tweeted this Easter egg where Andrew Garfield appears to mimic the hand gesture that Bernadette Peters did back to her. Here we see the top hat gesture from shows like A Chorus Line. And last but certainly not least, Adam Pascal, Daphne Rubin Vega, and Wilson Germain Heredia played Roger, Mimi, and Angel in the original Rent. This epic Sunday musical number ends with the image becoming a bunch of speckles of dots, a reference to Pointillism, a painting technique where you create an entire painting with only dots, perfected by Georges Seurat in his painting A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jatte, which became the basis for the musical Sunday in the Park with George. Here we see a part of New York where the Cat Scratch Club is. Fans of Rent will recognize the Cat Scratch Club as the club where Mimi worked as a dancer.
Do you go to the Cat Scratch Club?
Play Game turns into a vintage MTV music video, complete with the left-hand corner credits and the analog TV resolution. The rap is mostly performed by Tariq Trotter, aka Black Thought of the Roots, largely considered one of the finest freestyle rappers of all time.
You're one of the greatest rappers alive. No, you're literally whatever you want.
Play Game was not in the 2001 off-Broadway stage version, but is revived here for the film. This part of the Play Game music video was shot in Schubert Alley in the theater district between 44th and 45th Street. While the alley is known for its wall of Broadway posters, these posters are made up to satirize trends on Broadway, providing some critique that Larson himself might be proud of. In addition to Joshua Henry and Anissa Folds, the Superbia workshop features people who have notable connections to Lin's work. You have Kate Rockwell, who originated the role of Skylar in Bring It On.
Could you explain it, maybe?
Yeah, explain what?
Oh, just the musical.
Here she asks an airheaded question, similar to her airheaded character from Mean Girls.
If I could change the world, I'd make it Halloween.
Joel Perez, who began his career in the national tour of In the Heights, Eddie Lee, who is a swing on Hamilton, Janet DeCall, who played the original Carla in the Heights, and Kurt Crowley is a real-life music director and pianist who has worked on Hamilton, In the Heights, Bring It On, and Freestyle Love Supreme.
Oh no, he's keeping the Godspell. Day by Day.
In case it wasn't clear, Day by Day is a song from Godspell.
Day by day.
Larson is seen playing the opening riff of the song One Song Glory.
You know, the One Song Glory.
Which is not only an Easter egg, but also a what if.
We've created a what if of like, well, if she hadn't called, he might have written One Song Glory that night.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, scenes from a modern romance as told in song.
The idea of a parallel cabaret universe
And now, ladies and gentlemen,
has been also used in other musicals such as Cabaret in Chicago. In the original stage version, the song See Her Smile would have been here, but it is replaced by Therapy. The scene at the advertising firm is also filled with Broadway stars. Besides Utkarsh Ambudkar, who I already mentioned, we have Tony winner Laura Benanti. Michaela Diamond originated the role of young Cher in The Cher Show. Danielle Furlan made her Broadway debut in Sunday in the Park with George, and later originated Little Red Riding Hood in Into the Woods. Notably, Larson was connected to Into the Woods because he was Sondheim's guest during 5 weeks of production of that show. The New Mexico City Santa Fe is written up on the board. Santa Fe is also a song in Rent.
We'll open up a restaurant in Santa Fe.
Larson's song Debtor Club underscores the advertising focus group meeting. As Jonathan is cleaning his apartment, we hear a reprise of the music from No More. The power goes out just like in the opening of Rent.
The power blows!
The song Swimming was cut from the 2001 production of Tick Tick Boom, but was revived here for the film. This scene was shot in the West Village's Tony DiPolito Recreation Center, which was the actual pool that Jonathan Larson swam in. The lyrics actually make reference to aspects of the pool.
Can I make it to 40? 2 strokes, red fin stripe 50 feet.
As Larson comes to his epiphany, we hear voices saying "come to your senses" in the background. The text of it is behind him, and the melodic riff is heard on guitar. Jonathan Larson's parents here are played by Broadway stars Danny Burstein, who's currently on Broadway in Moulin Rouge, and Judy Kuhn, who originated the role of Helen in Fun Home.
I can't do it again, Mike.
I can't stomach 5 more years of waiting tables, 5 more years of writing things that no one will ever see.
It's ironic that Jonathan Larson says he can't spend 5 more years on a project because in less than 6 years, Larson will have written Rent.
I'm HIV positive.
The character of Michael is based on Larson's real-life best friend, Matt O'Grady, who similarly revealed to Jonathan Larson that he had HIV. In the old 8mm footage, we see Barbara Ames, Lin-Manuel Miranda's real-life elementary school music teacher.
We sang, got a rocket in your pocket.
The lyrics, got a rocket in your pocket,
got a rocket in your pocket,
and the Jets are gonna have their day tonight,
and the Jets are gonna have their day tonight.
The Jets are coming out on top tonight.
Are both from West Side Story. Got a Rocket in Your Pocket is especially notable because it comes from the song Cool, and the melody in Cool is remarkably similar to the opening guitar riff in Rent's opening number.
There's a support group. It's called Friends Indeed. I just called them. They have a meeting tomorrow morning.
Larson mentions an HIV/AIDS support group here, and a similar support group was dramatized later in the show Rent. The answering machine message, speak, is a reference to the answering machine message in Rent.
We screen, zoom in on the answering machine. Speak.
And here the message from Stephen Sondheim is not voiced by Bradley Whitford, but is actually Sondheim's real voice. And because he was voicing it, Sondheim actually got Lin's permission to rewrite the lines so that he could say them in his own words, which now, due to his passing, makes this his final film appearance. Underneath this, we hear a little bit of the Sunday music reprised. Among the footage of Rent we see here is the Japanese production of Rent and the Cuban production of Rent, which came from the HBO documentary Revolution Rent. Aside from Julie Larson and Chris Jackson, who I mentioned earlier, there are some other luminaries in this Tick Tick Boom audience. One seat away from Julie is Scott Schwartz, who directed the 2001 production of Tick Tick Boom that Lin saw when he was 21 years old. Incidentally, Scott Schwartz is the son of Stephen Schwartz, who we saw earlier at the ASCAP workshop and whose Godspell we saw referenced in the bookstore. And finally, we see Jelani Aladdin, who was the original Kristoff in the Broadway version of Frozen. This video is dedicated to Stephen Sondheim. I have plans to make more videos in tribute to Sondheim and Larson. Please subscribe and stay tuned, and I'll see you next time. Peace.